Welcome to Roundtable Ops in Motion, where marketing, sales, and RevOps leader break down the systems, strategies, and data shaping modern GDM operations. Each episode brings you actionable insights, practical frameworks, and emerging trends, helping B2B teams stay aligned, efficient, and scalable. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Roundtable Ops in Motion. I'm Kawal, and today's discussion will focus on B2B marketing and marketing operations with an emphasis on how teams effectively manage increasing complexities while driving those meaningful business outcomes. And I'm really excited to have Nadia Davis with us today with over 2 decades of experience in B2B marketing. She's currently a VP of Marketing at CaliberMind, the leading B2B go-to-market data platform. And she's also well known for her engagement and thought leadership within the marketing community. So good morning, Nadia. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, good morning, Kawal. Thank you for such a stellar introduction. I didn't know that I was all of those things, but good to know. I guess you find out eventually.
I mean, that's nice. I saw you on LinkedIn and there were some webinars and some of the episodes I see like keeps happening. You've been engaging with a lot of people, so that's
No, there's definitely a lot going on in the MarTech industry. There's a lot going on in marketing. The new wave of disruption is definitely affecting all of the B2B people, BTC people. B2B is more home for me. But I feel like it's one of those industries where you cannot afford to stop learning. You just can't. It's just continuously evolving. It's continuously, having new things that you either have to adopt, discard, but have to pay attention to, right? So it definitely helps to spread the knowledge because all of us are in the same boat.
Yeah, of course. So Nadia, do you want to introduce yourself with a quick introduction?
Oh, I'm sorry. This was supposed to be an introduction and I kind of took it down the other way, the other route. I'm Nadia Davis. I'm VP of Marketing at CaliberMind, and I spent 2 decades working for different SaaS companies, different DaaS companies, mainly within the software space, kind of helping to translate complex technology concepts into everyday language, make them accessible so that people in various marketing roles could benefit from whatever it is that they're working with. And data technology and analytics are specifically a passion of mine. I mean, call it pet project if you want. I feel like marketing is moving more and more towards the area where you can't afford just being a creative genius, which I totally believe anybody that goes into the marketing field do have the creative genius, kind of up there. But you have to have affinity to data. You have to understand the numerical side of marketing. You have to be able to articulate to others what it is that you do day to day in order for marketing not to be viewed as exactly, what I mentioned before, the creative arts and crafts department, which still, believe it or not, proliferates in many industries, but rather a strategic partner that truly helps the company to advance towards the goals that they set up. So CaliberMind is very much in that space. So to me, leading marketing for CaliberMind is a hobby as much as it is a day job. So I love it.
Interesting, Nadia. I mean, thank you for introduction. And I think you also talk about marketing operation CaliberMind and give us an overview of that. Thank you. So Nadia, I have seen, with your experience, like you've worked on the corporate side and you've also worked on the agency side of marketing. So how do you see this environment as different, in terms of the execution, the strategies, and the expectations when you work with client? And what are the challenges and advantages that you think as, stand out from both the sides?
They're different. They're different, and I could see how some people gravitate more towards agency life, where other people choose to stay on the corporate side. And the best way I can describe it, when you think about the excitement that we all get when there's a new project that's coming up, a new campaign that you have to ideate and brainstorm, or a new framework that you want to, build out and see if it works. I mean, I'm always driven by the challenge. Let me see how I can ideate it and will it work? You always have that gaming interest. If you're on the corporate side, on the people kind of front, you work with a lot more stakeholders, and there's as much alignment driving as there is strategy and kind of execution behind the project. When you're on the agency side, usually you're managing your point of contact, so you're more ideating, brainstorming, and coming up with a strategy. But then there's the other side of it, right? Once you ship the project and it kind of goes live, it's out there in the ether of whatever ecosystem that you built it in. On the corporate side, you kind of own it and you stay with it, for better, for worse. So the corporate side is almost like a marriage of sorts.
Yes.
If you think about the agency side, it's more like a dating relationship. It may be a longer dating relationship, but you kind of ship the project, and then the person on the corporate side that is your contact owns that project, manages it, continues nurturing it. You kind of like parachute out, right? And for some people, it's very exciting to constantly parachute in and out, come up with things, ship them, and move on. Where other people, they're more like the gardeners, right? You plant the seed, you grow the seed, and you continue nurturing your garden until it blooms and, stays well. So definitely a difference of mindset, where the two sides are very similar. I mean, this is like a cheesy way of putting it, but everybody's numbers driven. And on the agency side, you might need to show immediate successes and immediate results and quick wins way sooner. You don't have that grace of continued, paid hours when nothing is happening. On the corporate side, it's more like you do have some grace to see things work, because usually large organizations have a lot of stakeholders and things take longer in a lot of cases, just because you have to collaborate so much more. So you do have a little bit of the grace of time, and less so in startups, more so in larger companies. But you're in it to win it, for better, for worse. So if it didn't kind of, turn out right the first time, you will continue plucking at it till it turns out right, because it must turn out right. You must deliver the project that works in the long term.
Right. I love the analogy that you put towards, marriage and the dating thing. That is really nice. That's a
The
nice
good thing, you
comparison
can
between
switch
the two.
agencies. You cannot switch married partners as
Yes.
easily as you can do the
Yeah,
outside.
you're right. You're right. Yeah, it's very interesting working on both the side. I mean, once upon a time, I was also working as corporate employee, and then also now on the agency side. So I can also resonate what you're saying. And it's like very interesting, because both the sides, sharpen your different muscles, you say, you have experiences that gives you a much more balanced perspective towards marketing operation. If you look at the corporate side, as you described, it's very different. When you look at the agency side, it's totally different. I mean, both are, again, goal driven, but then the way they look at things, the way things work there, the strategy, the execution part, it's totally different. I mean, end goal result is the same, but the way of doing things are different, of course. And like I've been seeing, you are a big proponent of aligning sales and marketing, in an organization. And also on the metrics point. So how should, team think about defining, tracking, or personalization, the shared metrics to drive better outcomes? Because aligning both the teams, the sales and marketing, is always a challenge. But if somebody can achieve it in an organization, that is going to be a really good path for that organization.
That is such an interesting topic that continues proliferating. And I feel like the word itself, alignment, got so overused that almost lost its like the truth within its meaning, right? Everybody talks about alignment. Well, then the question becomes, and this is the first question in marketing operations or any operations, right? Can you define it? What does it mean? And everybody will give you 1,000 different definitions. So, that's probably where you want to start, right? What does this alignment mean? And in a lot of cases, there's, meeting every so often and making sure we're all tracking towards the common goal. Great. That's super important. Does the business have the North Star? Absolutely. Every business has the North Star. Usually it's revenue, right? So the sales feel like they hold the bag to get to that North Star in revenue. Marketing is there trying to help move the needle, either to start deals, to accelerate deals, whatever it is. But usually what happens in between, where marketing starts doing something and sales actually has an opportunity, that middle of the funnel, if you want to say, when we're looking at the entire funnel, not just marketing funnel, but actually getting it to the, close one opportunity, that's very murky. And a lot of people struggle with defining that process. And I mean, I always felt like it was as much on the marketing leaders as it is on the operations leaders, or maybe it's a tight collaboration between the two to define it, and then bring in the sales counterpart and say, hey, this is how we think about this process, with handoff being the most important thing, right? Like, if I hand something off to you, what does this mean? What does this mean for your sales reps? What will they do with it? Where would they look for things that are ready for them to take and, continue working? How much time do they have from when marketing flags something that is ready to go to when they should engage, right? And some companies are better than others. Some define that process, even the ones that I've worked in, right? They define that process more I guess, clearly, where others are very kind of fuzzy. That's where the hate from, about MQLs comes from. Like they know that that's how everybody does it, but they're not quite sure what does it fit within the life cycle of a lead, what's ready, what's not ready, right? And I always feel like operational maturity and having that clarity for the sales team with context of what happened before they're asked to engage is so critical. Like we all talk about buyer's journey, right? Like this is the world of Caliber Mind. I mean, that's why I bought Caliber Mind for, where I had my sales team, being on the client side of Caliber Mind, where they struggled to understand what happened before the account got flagged. And I had fantastic instrumentation and orchestration of everything and dashboards. And guys, these are the accounts that are ready for you. And they're like, okay, but what happened within that account? And that context piece comes up more and more often, right? Where people don't understand what conversations have taken place and where they need to continue driving it. So the contextual layer is super important. Clarity in what they're going after is very important. And a lot of people get there. A lot of people are like, okay, we got that part figured out. We got our technology. We can flag accounts as MQAs, or we can flag leads that are ready for sales, right? They need to follow up. Fantastic. Well, what people do not do more often than not is once that process is there, nobody goes and audits that process. How is it working? So you shipped off 200 MQA accounts last quarter, for example, right? How many of those panned out to be false MQAs? I mean, technology makes mistakes, face it, right? Like you have to QA it. Which ones got flagged were maybe the sales didn't know what to do? Which ones did not get accepted, but were not marked as, whatever, recycle or not qualified? Like nobody ever goes back and kind of flexes that muscle because A, it's time consuming. Everybody is asked to go 100 miles an hour every day. B, like you gotta figure out how to get in there. And usually if you had the operations team in the middle and the marketing head is talking to the head of sales, like they need to bring in the third party within the business, right? Another cross-functional team, another stakeholder to kind of unravel all of that, which is friction, which is challenge, which is time. So I feel like that alignment in a lot of cases where, they always say road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? The good intention is to create this alignment. The process is created. Maybe some people even took the trouble to document it, but they don't go back and audit it on regular intervals. And humans have, there's the behavioral side of it. Humans have this tendency of skirting a little bit whenever you feel like you can get away with doing a little bit less when nobody's auditing it. I mean, nobody holds you accountable. So why would you go through the trouble? You may assume that it's not even important, right? But that's where you want to go back and check what marketing delivered for the handoff. Was it good? Was it bad? Maybe you didn't receive feedback. So you just simply don't know. You continue on the same motion while sales over here is saying everything that marketing brings does not work. Well, go back, understand why does it not work? Because everything usually comes down to the process. You can, the beauty of metrics is that you can, peel the layer and figure out which step was missed. And that's, within the world of Caliber Mind, we talk a lot about data lineage and data auditability. Metrics fall into the same thing. You have to be able to understand, double click into everything and ask the question, why was it qualified? Why was it, suggested as a handoff? What happened here? What steps were missed? And I know that it requires discipline. It requires this very very operational mindset within the organization to kind of dissect things into steps. Not everybody's prepared for it because it is a lift, but you cannot achieve success without having that very robust process where everything can be double clicked into, audited, and kind of improved as you go.
Right. I mean, very true. So what happens is the marketing says that we have this tool, which is not working. We have the scoring model. We are qualifying MQL as per the scoring model, what sales has approved it, and it should be working fine. But they are saying they're not getting MQL the way they want it. And sales says that, okay, we agreed on one scoring model, but the way you are scoring these leads are not working for us. So, hey, let's change the tool. We are not seeing this in the pipeline. We are not seeing this in the dashboard. This is missing in the metrics. So yes, of course, it's like the alignment and it's like the shared vision. They don't have the shared vision. I feel if they feel like, okay, we have to work towards moving forward with the pipeline or what we have in the pipeline to move it forward to get more revenue or have that business goal achieved for the organization, rather than saying like, okay, I have my MQL numbers achieved. Marketing is very happy with that. And sales says, okay, what I'm getting is I'm not getting a quality MQL from you. What I'm doing is I'm prospecting and I'm sending out my cold emails and I'm trying to get more people in touch to sell and reach my goals and all of that. So yes, it's always been that debate, and people keep blaming the dashboard, the tools, the different processes, but it's all about the alignment between sales and the marketing. I think that would really help an organization to get to a point where everyone sees those metrics as a common goal, and wherein they should see like how the pipeline should work instead of just seeing their own metrics and own goals, which is assigned to them. So yeah, I feel
You
I
said
agree with
people
that.
have to blame the tool. Like, you got to blame someone. Like, you're not going to blame yourself. And clearly, you're not going to blame your
Right.
sales counterpart because that's not going to end up well, right? You got to blame
Hmm.
something, blame the third-party technology. But you said something which is very interesting to me. And I feel like that's the sentiment that proliferates out there about the death of the MQLs, right? Like, they're dead, they're not working. I feel like in a lot of cases, people are so trapped in just the mechanics of the mechanics of every rabbit hole that you can potentially go into. And that could be that scoring model, right? I mean, I have personally been part of conversations where the sales ask, show me your scoring model. And I will give you kind of the one side of it versus like what you should think about when you even have this conversation. Okay, the question is, show me your scoring model. So as a marketer, you would pull up your Excel spreadsheet or whatever, maybe within the tool you have all the fields, and you would say, well, for this, you get this many points. For this, you get that many points. This is the simplistic way of, how people create that, right? So I have personally been a party to the conversation where when people see this tactical breakdown, they zoom in on one thing. In my case, it was email. And then the argument becomes, why should an email open be scored? We
Oh
don't think it
yes.
should be scored. These are bots.
Yeah.
Fine. Well, why should a click be 3 points? We think it should be 1 point. And then, like, you go into this kind of, the tug of war over the smallest, most granular
Hmm.
thing. What people do not know, and I mean, marketers are to blame if they do not bring that point of contention early on, right? Is that this whole holistic model was created based on many other bigger external factors that sales do not even have a clue about because they're not, within this conversation. There's something that doesn't touch the sales world, so they don't know what they don't know, right? And it's easy when you show people the most granular level where everybody can make a decision and have an opinion, you bring that up and they're like, well, I have an opinion and it shouldn't be this, it should be that. So it's my word against yours. And people struggle to articulate how it all came about within the bigger ecosystem. Maybe based on the historical distribution of engagement, maybe based on total volumes of data and what you see as the most prevalent that kind of, within accounts that lead to some kind of a conversation or an opportunity, right? So that changes the paradigm because then they start questioning, this is bigger than my simplistic understanding of what this number is on this line, right? So should you ever bring up the scoring model and decide what should be 3 points and what should be 5? No, because this is not the right setting to even like this is something that internally within the marketing operations and marketing analytics team you would discuss because you understand all the variables that you're dealing with. You would not bring it up to the team that really has no context for how it all comes together within the bigger MarTech stack, right? But what you would talk about is what you see as a trend saying that we give preference to this because it matters, because we've seen it before. And once people have this understanding, that's where the alignment comes from. They understand that the reasoning behind these things was created based on certain, proof points that they can absolutely audit if they wanted to. So they feel like there's a method to the madness as opposed to just opinionated, this should be that and this should be something else. Not everybody does that. And I feel like that's where the conversations go south. And the same with MQLs, right? Like, what is the purpose of an MQL? I know historically it was like flag this person as the one you want to talk to and sales talk to people. So yes, that's what we're going to do. When in reality, all MQLs, like if you take 100 MQLs, you look at each one, what qualified this person as an MQL. There could be a myriad of different reasons. Some may be more qualified than others. Some may have had more intent behind their engagement, like they filled out a demo form, right? Well, yeah, sure, that's a person who's ready to talk to us. The other one did these 5 things that gave him the points and kind of reached the threshold of an MQL, but really this person is not ready to talk to you. So there's like, apples and oranges and everything else within this basket of fruit of what qualified MQL, but nobody accounted for that when they said these people are ready for sales to talk to. So it's almost like you have to create a model. That's how data works. That's how business works. It works on models, right? Otherwise, you cannot create processes and organize thousands of people within the company. But you also have to understand that there's some margin of error to every model. And within the MQL specifically, to me, it's an operational metric. It's not a front-facing sales-ready metric. If somebody MQL'd, great. Now keep engaging these people till they're ready to talk. Maybe now with buying groups, keep engaging multiple people from the same account. So that MQL is a signal that you need to look at this account and see if somebody else can engage. You have 2 people, 3 people, 5 people. That's your account that you want to talk to, right? Because multiple people are researching similar things. So again, figuring out the definition of what makes each and then the application of where each one of those metrics comes in handy, I think that's super important.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really important to understand like what each team should be approving and reviewing and, agreeing on. As you rightly said, like the scoring model, because sales is going to say, hey, I want everyone coming, fill out the form from the east side of US. I want them to be score high and I want to score the west side of low. And I mean, it could be possible that you can get good business or a deal or an account from either side of the region of US. It's not that you can segment them by regions. Maybe industry might make sense. So yes, of course, involving them into very granular detail could actually lead to a problem wherein sales and marketing have those conflicts and this scoring model is not approved, processes are not approved. MQLs are like, are coming in, but not coming in the way they want it to be. Of course, I agree with you all on that.
Another thing too, like, people never ask, what's the reason behind it? Like you were talking about segmenting, maybe giving preference to one side, one region versus the other region. If there is a business goal to create, I don't know, bigger market share or increase revenue within a specific region because there's some type of knowledge that, the business believes is critical for that. Like that's what would drive all of your decisions from up here down to line managers, what they include into the business logic, because business logic is critical. If we're trying to achieve a certain outcome, that has to be one of the rules within every process. It's not that I think we should do X versus I think we should do Y, unless you socialize that plan across the entire business, because multiple people have to pull towards the same, goal and in the same direction. And that is very much the alignment, that alignment against the business goal and trickling that down into every process of how you set things up, including scoring models and MQLs and everything else.
That should align with all the teams within the organization, be it like marketing, sales, or customer success, all has to be aligned together, the common goal, and work towards the organization common goal instead of having their individual goals and working towards it. So of course that would give that alignment between teams and all of that. We had a good conversation about the scoring and how the things should work between the teams and all of that. And another topic that keeps coming up on different social channels or when we have those webinar sessions and different podcasts that we hear to, they are like, how is AI evolving and what is your perspective on like AI evolving in marketing operations and rev operations? So how do you feel like, what's your perspective, Nadia? Like, how is the AI adding value, or how is it, easing the work, or it's like, making it worse for operations? How do you feel about it?
I think AI is phenomenal, but you have to understand where it shines and where it comes up short. And somebody gave me an analogy yesterday, which I thought was brilliant. They said, if you have this super powerful, super fine-tuned, high-torque engine for a car, you put it in a sports car where all the other systems are aligned to be able to benefit from the power and the torque and the workings of the engine, you're going to be the one winning the race because everything around that engine that powers the car is working in sync with the engine. It's tuned to every system. If you buy that engine and put it in the middle of your driveway in front of your house, and that's all you do, you're not going to benefit from that engine. You might feel good about having it, looking at it, touching it, dreaming about what you could do with that engine, but you will not benefit from it in a material way, right? So when it comes to AI, this is, kind of front and center in the market. Fantastic for content creation, fantastic for brainstorming and ideation, fantastic for unstructured data and language processing, right? All of those co-pilots and summaries of calls and things of that nature. But we have to remember that in a lot of cases, when we say AI, we mean LLMs, right? And LLMs, they're large language models. They're not large numbers models. And in the world of analytics, people tend to ask all of these mathy questions because we don't like math. Math is hard. Marketers usually come from communications, product marketing, brand in a lot of cases. And sometimes data is so messy, even if you come from the world of STEM, it's really hard to digest all of that. So, we tend to ask all of these mathy questions of hoping that it will alleviate the challenge that we have stitching things together, bringing data together. But what I see these days out there is the fact that bad data means bad AI. Yes, because AI is the aggregate of many things. And then two, like I said, it's a language model. It's not there to do math. It's fantastic for coding. I mean, that's why Claude is like, what is it, 90%? Of developers use Claude for code. Claude claims that they write 99% of their own code. Why is it so? Because code is a language. Large language models can process a lot of language and give you a very defined output because the rules of the language define the guardrails. Well, in businesses, when you have all of this data and a lot of it is numbers, right? No rules define logic for AI, how those numbers should be processed. So people lament about unreliable, output, numbers that don't match. We're very much mindful about that within CaliberMind, where the strength of LLMs lies within creating code and pulling those numbers from your own data that has been structured, that has been defined, that has been modeled in a way that matches your go-to-market motion with all relationships already mapped out. So back to your original question, where do people win, or like what can operational teams lean on AI versus where they should be mindful of the limitations? I would very much say when it comes to analytics and all of the numeric, revenue-driven numbers to understand like how marketing engagement, which is a lot of data out there in all the different places, translates into revenue, you have to be mindful that AI will treat your CRM output as text. It will not treat it as integer. So when you ask questions on, mathematical, formulas, you have to be mindful that it will try to apply historical patterns, but it will not give you the mathematical reasoning that you would have, say, if you put things in cells within Excel. So you have to be able to understand what is it that you need to put in place to first integrate all of your tools, bring all your data together, where at least your foundation is reliable. And then when you have that, how can you get the proxy for AI to treat your numeric data as integers or numbers, or using, Python analogy, integers and floats as opposed to strings, so that your results can be trusted and auditable? Can you double click? Can you check? And I think that's where the notion of lack of trust in AI is coming from more and more and more and more, like we see it all over LinkedIn. It's because it's a black box in a lot of cases. People trust it with the most, pressing analytics question. But if it's a black box, I don't know if the output today was using the same logic as the output yesterday. They don't match. I would like to understand an audit, but you can't. I mean, again, I'm passionate about it because this is like the area of interest within CaliberMind, how we build our AI functionality, where it does not look at numbers as strings. But however, that's that pressing problem within the market.
Right. So I have seen some of my clients that I work with, they would try doing, go-to-market strategy, asking, LLMs like, how can we, build our go-to-market strategies? And I understand content writing would be really good help from AI that you can take. And if you have 10 Excels and you want to put them into some sort of reports or create some slides to be presented to leadership and have those reports and analytics ready, that is good. That is good because that's a lot of, time that you take to put those figures and formulas and, get those things aligned together. But if AI is helping you on that, that's really great. But there are times like people just rely on AI for everything. Okay, let me ask AI, what is the next step that I should take in my marketing? And how do you think if I share the links of the doc and say, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, and how do you think I should refine it? So AI is not like going to take decisions, or it's not going to, build something new, but it's going to see historic data, as we discussed, like it's going to go and see historic data, which is already there, and it's going to build something out of that. So it's not going to get something new out of the box for us. So we have to really understand like where we can take the help of AI and make it, faster approach for us for some of the tasks, like content writing. It used to take hours for us to read through the content through different platforms and then put it together into an email, landing page, and all of that. But AI helps us in a good way in that. So that is like a good kind of help that we can take from AI. Yes, we should rely on AI, but not to an extent that we have a black box, as you mentioned. We put everything, and there's something like a black box, and we rely on it, saying that, okay, this is what AI is saying, so let's do it. I mean, you have to apply your own logic and the business logic and understand like what AI is saying and what you truly want to do and what is your personal goal and the organization goal. So alignment of all of these things and understanding these things would really, really help anyone using AI and doing their work very effectively. I mean, it could make it faster, but it can also give an approach of being, proactive rather than being reactive, because AI can
And
help you sort many things. Yeah.
yeah, I think one nuance to keep in mind, people
Hmm.
are seeking innovative ideas from those conversations. Like context, of course, is important, but when you think about the go-to-market motion for every single business, and there's thousands, maybe millions of
Yeah.
businesses out there, right? Every go-to-market motion is so unique. It is so proprietary. If you told me that I could look back at 100 businesses and the aggregate of that would be some kind of an average of what the go-to-market motion should
Mm.
be for me, like I probably would not agree with that, right? But somehow that context gets lost where you ask for next best step, where it looks at historical patterns, when in reality your business is like nothing else
Yeah.
historical because it's unique. And
Mm.
adjusting AI's thinking and creating those guardrails and grounding it in your business rules, that's where I think the unharnessed power of AI actually lies. Some people have achieved it, figuring out creative ways of doing it. Most probably are still on their journey to get there, but that's kind of my take on it.
Yes, of course. I totally agree with that. You cannot just rely on AI and say, okay, I'm going to do all of my work relying on AI. You can take some help from it, but you cannot do start to end with the help of AI, of course. So, Nadia, it was really nice talking to you today. I think we had a good conversation around different topics. I know these topics keep coming up every day with our discussion with stakeholders, clients, and our internal team as well. But it was really nice having those conversations with you. It was nice hosting you today, and thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Kawal. I enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.